1999 yılında pazara yön veren bir fikirle başladı her şey. İyi de bir fikir insanın hayatını nasıl bu kadar zenginleştirip kolaylaştırabilir? Yüzlerce şirketin araç ihtiyacını karşılamasına olanak sağlıyor. Binlerce insan akaryakıt ihtiyacını aracından inmeden karşılıyor. Yüzlerce insan her sabah iş yerlerine bizimle merhaba diyor. Türkiye'nin dört bir yanında çalışanlar öğlen yemeklerinde sayısız restoran seçeneği arasından istediğini seçiyor. Harcadıkça kazanıyor. Yüz binlerce çalışan bizimle firmalarından aldığı tatlı sürprizleri Türkiye'nin en geniş perakende ağında kullanıyor. İş seyahatleri bizimle daha kolay, daha eğlenceli. Ürünler sayesinde kurumlar tek fatura ve tek bir uygulamayla tüm masraflarını hızlı, avantajlı ve online olarak takip edebiliyorlar. E-ticaret ve fintech şirketlerinin tüm ödeme ihtiyaçlarını tek çatı altında online olarak çözüyoruz. Multinet App üye iş yerlerine, kurumlara ortak satın alma platformu sunarak bir değil 75 bin alıcı gücüyle hareket etmelerini sağlar. 17 yıldır büyümeye devam ediyoruz. Şimdi de hızlı ve güvenli akıllı şehir çözümleriyle şehir hayatına yeni bir soluk getiriyoruz. Akıllı geçiş sistemlerimizle trafiğe rahat bir nefes aldırıyor, trafik kazalarını önleyerek refah ve güvenliği arttırıyoruz. 17 yıllık deneyimi ve sektörde lider pozisyonuyla Multinet App yaşamı daha da zenginleştiriyor, kolaylaştırıyor. Türkiye'nin lider yeni nesil finansal teknoloji ve hizmet şirketi Multinet App'la dünya parmağınızın ucunda.
Okay, thank you for this short film. So it's the last panel, so please fresh your minds. There are things to listen to more. And investing in fintech is the title. And fintech is, you know, a concept globally. It's very famous. It got very much investment last year. It is continuing to dominate the headlines this year as well. So people are going to talk about this here on the stage. And I would like to invite Mr. Sevket Basev. He is the chairman of Multinet App. You're welcome. And he is the leading new generation financial technology services provider in the region. You're welcome. So, and also we would like to, Matteo Stefanel is the founder and managing partner, APIS Partners. You're welcome on the stage as well. He's a very successful track record in private equity and investment banking. And last man on the stage will be Bülent Tekmen. He's the co-founder of In-N-Out. You're welcome. Is that okay? Okay. Stage is yours. Thank you.
So, welcome everyone. I'd like to start by thanking Sipahiler Events. They've created this visionary and brave idea and gave our city the privilege to host this marvelous series of events, Istanbul Talks. And fintech, it's very hot in investments. Everyone is talking about it. I've been in a conference lately, Money 2020, and I'll start with an interesting analogy I heard there, and I'll speculate on it a little. It's, I hope everybody watched the movie Star Wars, right? You know, there is the fourth episode, it's called The New Hope, where the rebels arise and they start going after the empire. And we kind of think like this is what we've seen in Fintech. You know, we've seen rebels like Cabbage, Cedar, Azimo, Landing Club, and many of the rebels are here in this room. And you know, our victory was won. Death Star was exploded, but now I see at the same time the empire, banks and insurance companies have realized of the threat. And they are now turning it into a space where they can profit from and where they can really cooperate in. So the new episode, I feel like it's called The Empire Strikes Back. And the leader of the rebels may probably realize that there is a father there that he has not heard about. So, in that context, I'd like to address my first question to Matteo. Matteo, APES is a private equity fund that invests globally in financial services. And I think it's not too bold to say also, you are the only fund that has a special focus in fintech. So how do you see the recent developments? How is the industry going in perspective of investments?
So our focus is in financial technology, specifically within financial services. And I don't actually believe that there is such a thing as financial technology. I'm going to be provocative. This is probably the wrong place to say this right here, so apologies for that. But I think we all know that financial services only works thanks to technology. Effectively, you can't have fin without tech. You can't have a bank run with an abacus. This is what we're seeing today is an evolution of financial services rather than a revolution. And in that sense, APIS is investing in the new breed of financial services.
Thank you. And Bülent, again, another statement from me, but I'd like to call Ünal the pioneer of fintech startups in Turkey. And after 4 rounds of investments, becoming a sizable venture, you know, attracting investment, how does it happen?
Friends, family, fools. After that, I guess the next rounds were very interesting for us because we were the pioneer. There was no regulation on BRSA. The regulatory were not there to support us or the system. It's definitely becoming the pioneer in one land, and creating a market is very difficult. But why we have 4 times of or 4 rounds of investment? Because we believe in sharing the shares with people who can at least take us to the next level. And because of this, we had on the last round have MasterCard as an investor in Ünal. So these were the track records that we have passed. It wasn't easy. I have a lot of great entrepreneurs in this amazing platform too. So they are also on the same page with me. I guess it was hard, man. It was hard.
And I think there's another investor here sitting next to me.
I didn't want to disclose that, but Matteo was one of the guys.
Well, it's true, actually. I mean, we at APIS only invest in Africa and South Asia. And when we saw in Ünal initially, we thought it was a tremendously attractive investment, but we couldn't do it. So I ended up doing it personally and investing personally in Ünal. But we would have loved to actually be able to invest here. Now, the reason why we couldn't invest in Turkey is quite an interesting one. We find that the Turkish market is probably one of the most advanced financial markets globally in the world. It is certainly more advanced than Europe and than, I would even say, the United States. My experiences here have been when looking, I think it was Garanti Bank in 2002, so I'm going back 14 years. And there was this product called Bonus Card. I'm sure many of you remember Bonus Card. I'm sure many of you remember that it had an installment program as well as a card program. And when I came here with the bank that I was representing at the time to do due diligence on Garanti, they were shocked that such a product existed. Now, this has continued being the case for the past 16 years, certainly, well, 14 years. And it will continue being the case. That's why Turkey couldn't be part of our mandate, unfortunately.
So, Bülent, I mean, of course, investors' point of view is a little different, but when you look at the entrepreneur's point of view, being a successful company owner now, first of all, what would you recommend to fintech startups? And second thing, you're always talking about giving back to the ecosystem. So what are you doing to give back?
Actually, this is our 4th year. We are finishing our 4th year. For the last 4 years, we developed a lot of stuff. We had lots of hurdles on the way. We had a lot of distractions because of this very heavy, sophisticated financial system. The banks really doesn't support you. So on that way, I learned on the hard way. This is why we developed an API platform. Everyone in some of the ways heard İnanal as a prepaid card. But that was just one very specific, small vision of this big platform that we created. We have now 48 APIs open for every developer, every startup entrepreneur, or every company who wants to use transactional banking as a solution. Like lots of very interesting startups use İnanal instead of a bank. Our vision on those days, which our first teaser was the bank for unbanked. We thought that only the unbanked need the platform like this, but when we had lots of great minds in the board, like Matteo and Udayan, like very incredible guys, we heard that there are lots of other stuff that we can do because things are changing differently in the world. So this is what we have developed so far, and what I'm going to offer to the give back part is like we're going to use everything that we develop with our APIs open for any startup founder or any developer who wants to do a financial technology startup.
But if I may actually jump in, you touched on a very important point, and that is banking for the unbanked. That is probably, if you had to summarize APIS and what we do, is provide banking services to the unbanked in countries, parts of the world. Preston in the previous panel was mentioning the specific types of innovation that you find in global emerging markets. And the type of innovation that we're seeing in global emerging markets, it was mentioned in China. I will use the same examples for several parts of Africa. Certainly in Kenya, you've got M-Pesa, which I'm sure everybody knows, and effectively democratized the access to payments. This type of innovation, which may have less to do with the technology side and more to do with the new business model side, is what we are finding is allowing the democratization of financial services and the banking of the unbanked, the İnanal, indeed, we recognized having, and that's why we invested.
But, I mean, isn't there a paradox? When we look at your investors, you have a lot of banks being the investors of your fund. So how are you explaining that part?
Well, for an innovative investor, if you will, we've got some pretty old world investors. We've got banks, we've got insurance companies, we have pension funds, and we do have governments even. Now, the fact that banks and insurance companies decided to invest in us is, I think, a result of the fact that they see this evolution, rather than revolution that I was talking about, as a chance for getting new models and incorporate them into their existing business operations. It's what John was mentioning earlier on, John Goodall, as collaborating with the banks rather than being bought out by banks. This is what's happening. It's co-opetition, if you want to use a different word, that we're seeing more and more taking place. So the innovation that is taking place in financial technology globally is more about what you observe in the pharma market. There are small startups, sometimes growth companies, that experiment with new business models. And when those business models come up, the banks can buy those services, if not the companies, and integrate them into their offering to the client base.
I think you have the same case as well. You cooperate right now with a lot of banks. So it's again...
The term is the co-opetition part,
yes.
exactly. We use a lot of services at the moment, and we have very good integrations with one of the biggest guys. And we have lots of great relations with them. And in order to develop these kind of platforms, you really need that kind of a platform, because in anti-money laundering part or KYC or anything else, banks have enormous know-how, and to have them on board and to utilize that kind of knowledge is definitely a very important thing for any startup.
Well, I find that the volume that banks and insurance companies can provide to financial technology innovators is phenomenal, and it's something that replicating will take a very long time. Now, the creation of marketplaces, as we've seen today, is pivotal in the ability to go around the need for an initial network in order to test ideas. But we're finding that more and more competition, frenemies, if you want to call it differently, between traditional banking that are seeking to evolve by using the new developments in business models, in payments, certainly in microinsurance and in other areas, is phenomenally important.
And, you know, you started to talk about subsectors also, and we had a nice map here, which is quite complicated.
Yes.
So, for the next phase, which subsectors are you more attracted to?
I'm biased. I like payments. I've always liked payments, obviously. I've always liked payments, so we've invested quite a lot in payments. We find insurance and insurtech is going to be tremendously important, again, in order to democratize what in many parts of the world is perceived as a luxury rather than a first requirement. We definitely like money transfer and remittances. The migrations, whether the dramatic ones of the past few years or the more steady ones that we've observed in the world over the past decades, make remittances a required business. So I would say those are probably the three. Certainly I find closed-loop networks can be extremely attractive. I'm just mentioning that.
Yeah. Okay, and going on, I mean, now Inal is in a transformation from being a startup to a venture to a growing company. And I know that you also have intentions to grow internationally. And as a fintech company, what are the challenges and opportunities you have in investing into other countries?
The biggest problem or the barrier is like Turkey has its like regulation and environment that requires you to do some stuff that are available in EU too. So we are ready by means of technology. But the procedures and the structured company to find that kind of a company is hard. And for the last 4 years, as I mentioned, we have put a tremendous effort on developing our platform to be definitely getting to any other market. Like we're not looking for at the moment Sweden or any EU country, but there are lots of important openings in Middle East and Africa and Asia. There are huge assets there, we can see that. But on the other side, there is the international money transfer that we can crack immediately, because in payments, we have every aspect of money transfer platform or any kind of international money transfer potential in our hand. And this is why we are also looking for EU money license to Germany. So these are the two things that we are trying to achieve. As you mentioned, before we were a startup, we had 4 rounds of investment, and today we are a profitable company, which we are ready to grow. And with this power, we are looking for companies like we can add lots of value and create a lot of interesting potential. Because there is the sharing economy coming, and I guess we're going to discuss it in the upcoming minutes, but there is huge potential there.
But before we move to the sharing economy, can I ask you a question? Because you run probably...
I thought I was moderating.
Exactly, I know you're moderating, but you're also running a company that actually operates firmly in this sector and is by far the largest, don't forget Turkey, is by far the largest in the broader region, in fact one of the largest in the world. You must be looking at international expansion as well. And in your case, maybe collaborating with private equity companies, I hope, or maybe not. In your case, you must be looking at specific verticals. What do you see as the greatest opportunity from your point of view?
I'd like to take a step back first, because our name is Multinet Up, because my partners in Multinet is one of the leading global payment systems companies, Up Group. And they currently operate in 17 countries. And when you look at their history, for the last 3 years, they've been doing acquisitions like a machine. In Brazil, Mexico, I can name 5, 6 companies right now, and these are really sizable companies that grow in that angle. And the critical thing that they and also we look at in Multinet, because in Multinet Up, we are looking to expand in Asia and Africa now. And what we need is where we can add real value. because we think infrastructure is important and technology is important. And then with the two, bringing the right know-how, you can build up a great company. I think this is what we experienced in Multinet and Group Up, so we are trying to get that experience into other countries and also merging forces with the brilliant companies that exist all around the world.
I mean, one thing that I would say is that in the markets that we are focusing on, you've got 2.4 actually, billion unbanked individuals out of 2.9 billion. That is a huge market. And so the whole drive that you see currently with responsible investors to invest in financial inclusion is actually not an ESG or impact-driven strategy, as much as it is a strategy aimed at bringing 2.4 billion people into your client base. And this is, I think, what you were referring to, effectively accessing these massive volumes using your products.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm moderating you.
In that sense, I take back the moderation now. And another concept I like to talk about is cities, because last century was a century of nations, of countries. Now, I think we're entering a century where cities are more important than nations.
Yeah.
And cities are getting smarter. They want to offer more convenience. They want to offer a more entertaining life. They want to offer a more secure life to their that people that are part of that city. And in that respect, I think Fintech has a great angle merging with that concept. We as Multinet Hub, we are working on it, and I'm sure that you have ideas as well, and you have ideas as well.
Actually, we have running projects on this. Like, we also have a joint venture with Tursap. It's the Turkish tourism agencies. We are looking for travel. The travel payment industry is huge, and what our platform can deliver is for a tourist or on incoming or outgoing, we're going to deliver a very interesting solution for them with Tursap tourist card. It's going to be released in upcoming months. But we also have payment solutions for B-taxi-like companies or Hapgel or any other sharing economy guys. So this is like when you have that kind of a solution, this travel card that we have in mind and execution path, you can solve a lot of stuff with a seamless payment processing model. So this is what we developed so far, and we are going to invest on heavily with Tursap. And this is supported by Ministry of Culture, so we'll also be on the Haji part too, which is a very big problem. The cash management is a huge problem. When you have that kind of a problem, there are lots of opportunities when you solve it.
I mean, I can tell you that we've looked at the smart cities. I mean, first of all, let's talk about what a smart city is. You're talking about the emergence of probably 10, 15 mega cities in the world that increasingly will want to implement security on a single city basis, almost like putting borders around the cities and coordinating all the services being provided, including payments, onto a single point, which Singapore is a very good example. And practically any of the infrastructure, whether it is the Multinet infrastructure or the in-and-out infrastructure, can run that today. And I can tell you because we, when I was in my previous firm, we invested in a company that was a issue processor and a merchant acquirer, and many of the dialogues were around layering the services required by a mega city onto a smart card exactly in this way. And this is something that is going to happen. Identity card together with payments, together with all sort of other driving license, etc. is going to happen. And it's deeply connected to what you were talking about. But this is not about technology. This is about, as we were saying earlier on, or as I was saying at least, it's about business model. It's about understanding how to ensure that you can make money from what is essentially an endless flow of micropayments, from what is essentially an endless flow of requirements to certify identity at every single point. All of these things which today may be too costly to do when they are too small amounts. So micropayments is another subsector that I'm very interested in.
Exactly, and I think everything comes together because I also think that you should add a layer of loyalty, you should add a layer of entertainment into it, so that the the people that live in a city really feel belonging to it, safe in it, and it's also fun to live in it. I think this is where it is going, and I think fintech companies is going to play a big role in that. And our last 10 minutes, so I'd like to come to an interesting subject. You know, you and I, we are ex-bankers, so...
That's not true. I deny. Not true. I deny it. I deny it. It's no longer fashionable. Not true.
So, where I see it, the valuation thing. You know, the fintech companies right now are being valued with different parameters than we used to value financial services companies years ago. You know, most of them don't have revenues yet. More of them don't have profits yet. They have ideas, some of them are growing, but the parameters are a little different. I, as a part of the ecosystem and also as a shareholder of such company, I can understand and convince myself and our company that what we are talking valuations is reasonable. But as a private equity, where do you see yourself there?
Look, in a way, you're asking the wrong side of the equation, right? Because obviously I'm going to say that it's a bubble, and obviously I'm going to say that it's too expensive.
And then you're still choosing to invest in that industry, right?
Invest, exactly. So I need
That's
to be
not very
careful.
convincing, but yeah.
I need to be very careful. Now, look, there's a lot of talk right now about valuations having reached a plateau, being too high. There's been a lot of talk over the past 2-3 years about financial technology being fashionable. I actually find that all of this is a little bit, how can I put it, reductive, and it doesn't look at the substance and the fundamental of what we're talking about. We're not talking about a sector, first of all. We're talking about an evolution of a sector that already exists, financial services. Financial services themselves account for, call it 35% of the world economy, roughly. It's the funnel through which all transactions in all sectors go. So what you're asking is, does a company that has the potential, 1, 2, 3 companies, that have the potential to change a many trillion, probably quadrillion sized sector globally, has the potential to be valued accurately today before they've actually been rolled out completely? Obviously not. So in fact, for me, the issue is not to say whether where we are is overvalued, but rather to correctly estimate where the ceiling can be once a company has fully deployed throughout the entire sector. I just find it's tremendously difficult, which is one of the reasons why you need people like us, hopefully, to correctly assess those companies. It is tremendously difficult because what you're assessing is not cash and profits today, you're assessing potential tomorrow of how a specific company can radically change the financial services industry.
Thank you. And from you, I want a simpler answer. Okay?
No.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs in this room. And for the entrepreneurs, the time to receive investment has arrived. And they are talking to the investors. And investors are asking them, how much do you value your company? How do you answer that? How should they answer that when creating and, analyzing and calculating their own value? What is the trick there?
I don't think there is a trick, man, by the way. There has to be some belief that both parties are feeling in the same page. Because I really didn't have a chance to have that kind of negotiation in my first 2 rounds. Right. I didn't, because I just wanted the right people to be on board. And I always said, okay, if it's what you think, come on board. I just need you. But next time, you'll see that you will be much more profitable. And for the last 4 rounds, all of my investors used their pro rata rights and invested. So that's a very interesting and, I guess, the honest answer for any entrepreneur in this room. And they're all on the same page, I guess.
You see, Sevket, at EPIS, we invest at a later stage. We invest at a growth company stage. So hopefully we find that holy grail of potential and profitability, and we invest in those type of companies. But And I think you know one or two of those companies.
Yeah, we have two here.
Exactly. So, but the reality is when you're looking at early stage, it's really difficult to assess, and there needs to be almost more of an estimation of the needs of the companies and the potential that it can have once the full rollout has been achieved. But there is a lot of belief. I can tell you as somebody who has actually invested in it now.
So time to wrap up has come. You know, I'd like to get a few sentences from you on what you feel is the next thing to invest in fintech.
That's interesting. I was asked that question in a more specific way about 15 minutes ago by a friend in the audience. I will confess my bias again. I do like payments, obviously, and I do think that the evolution of micropayments, if we're looking at unlisted entities, the evolution of micropayments is going to be phenomenally interesting. It's happening, and it's going to revolutionize how you pay your speeding tickets, how you pay your parking fines, or how you pay your parking charges, how you pay for DRM on your music. It's going to revolutionize all of that. So I think micropayments specifically is going to be phenomenally interesting. I find micro-insurance and insurtech in global emerging markets is very interesting as well. It's exhibiting finally that pivot into profitability of some of the models. I would say those are probably the two main sectors that I would focus on today.
And as a spectacular entrepreneur, if you didn't have In-N-Out today, what would the company that you start up tomorrow would be doing?
As a lot of investors are here, so I would definitely find In-N-Out again and invest all my dimes to that. Just kidding, but I guess the lending part is interesting, but there are lots of difficulties. The banking sector in Turkey is like 50 billion Turkish profit sector, and we are talking about 35 billion in the lending part and 15 billion in the transactional part. I choose the small one because it might at least be successful. But the other part is a very big part too, and that can be cracked too. So I might invest on lending part.
Maybe you leave it to the other entrepreneurs now.
Yeah.
If I can add one thing, actually, Sevket, I would also focus specifically on what can be value additive to the banks, because at the end of the day, I go back to the evolution rather than revolution.
I fully agree on that. And thank you for bearing with us for at this time. And I'd like to invite Kerim Bey to the stage. And Tülin Hanım, please.
Gelin bence.
Thank you very much.